We are your church, and we are proud to be your church, or at least a church that's having a positive impact on your life. I am personally blessed to be your minister, or at least a minister who you're allowing to speak into your life. I hope you'll support our ministry and share your love beyond belief by texting LOVEBB to 41444 or go to our website. But you can just text LOVEBB to 41444 and make your gift. It's wonderful. Thank you. Be blessed and be a blessing.
My title is Being Prepared, which means that this is a future-oriented message. There's no point in preparing or being prepared if we're not thinking about the future. Now, one thing I love about early December in church is that this is the time of John the Baptist. Now, he's a pretty cool character, but we often don't hear very much about John the Baptist. I'm curious, what do you know about John the Baptist? Just call it out. He was a wild man. He liked honey, unlike the kids, yes. He was a cousin to Jesus.
He was born just a few months before Jesus.
Just born a few months before Jesus. All right, so we're a fairly biblically literate congregation. At least some of us are. So we know he was kind of a loner. He was a bit of a wild man. He wore clothes made of camel skins, and he ate locusts and honey. Has anyone tasted locusts before? I mean, there's a decent amount of meat on a locust, I would think. A little honey on it. Can't be that bad. Now, he also died by getting his head cut off and served up to the king on a silver platter. Now, John's severed head on a platter is one of the most memorable images of the Bible. Now, the reason I say that this is a season of John the Baptist is that he was the one who the Bible says prepared the way for Jesus. And in the Christian calendar, the 4 weeks before Christmas are called Advent. And Advent is about preparing for the coming of Jesus, or preparing for the coming of the Messiah. On this Sunday, if no other Sunday of the entire year, the message is our best days are ahead of us. We are told to live in anticipation, not in memory. Too often, people are dwelling in the past. Past hurts, past wounds, even past glories. But this is thought to be a time of preparation. The question then that you are probably asking yourself is, what are we preparing for? And it's a great question. I saw a bumper sticker that said, "Jesus is coming, look busy." Now, I'm certainly not preparing for the return of Jesus, not in any literal sense. But you and I have a role in preparing the way for the next leap of social evolution, of human consciousness and understanding. The world is a mess in many ways right now. The state of the environment alone is very scary. There are a lot of people who are either self-satisfied, addicted, greedy, or hopeless. Millions are homeless. The world's never seen so many refugees. We're dealing with mass shootings and terrorism in the news every week. I was talking with a group of people this Wednesday about all of this, and some were yearning for the good old days of the 1950s and before, when life was predictable and people shared common values. it was said. Now, of course, the women and the African Americans and the gay people in the group quickly reminded us that the 1950s in America was not exactly a golden era for them. Our culture has gone through huge, major upheaval in terms of who gets a seat at the table since the 1950s. When you couple the social revolution with advances in technology, we realize that we have been and we are in a period of unprecedentedly rapid change. All of these transformations, both societal and technological, have created a lot of disequilibrium and confusion, and from that has come a great deal of fear. But the answer is not to try to go back to some pre-1960s fantasy version of America. Those who are familiar with the Bible may remember Lot's wife, who looked back and was turned into a pillar of salt. Another one of the great images of the Bible, among which John the Baptist's head on a platter. I'm trying to get all the great images in before the end of the year, so here we go. The story of Lot's wife is a reminder that we are not meant to look back, but to focus on the future. And just as most of us are not waiting for Jesus to come back, most of us do not expect John the Baptist to come back. Instead, we are the ones who must prepare the way for this new era to come. And our best days are not behind us, as some would say, but are ahead of us. The stability and the predictability of what many remember of the pre-1960s America was characterized by respect for authority and for other traditional values. Yet for women to start to gain equal rights and access, and for African Americans and others, it required questioning authority and challenging authority and ultimately changing the values and the loyalties of the people in power and the people out of power. And what's needed now is for good people, including you and I, to help articulate a set of values that can be held in common in this new reality, and to help define for this new era what constitutes the just exercise of power. Now, I believe, as others have said, that we are at the beginning of a new reformation. And like the Reformation in Europe 500 years ago, it is messy and it is frightening. I believe that we in this congregation are called to play a part in this new reformation. Messy or frightening or not, I believe it is our problem. I believe that it's going to be an interfaith reformation that will lead more and more people to respect the different faith traditions and paths, and will also create ample room for humanists and others who do not put their faith in the supernatural. Now, there are still plenty of people who believe that if we are ever going to have peace and justice, it will require everybody believing exactly as they believe. It's a sense that it will take conformity and acceptance of a single religious truth in order to bring the world to a place of understanding. There are Christians who think that everyone must become Christian for peace to happen. There are Muslims who believe everyone needs to become Muslim, and that's how we will find peace. I've met Hindu gurus who teach that the world will become harmonious only when everyone comes to understand and live by these Hindu principles. I've met Buddhists who believe the same thing. And I know atheists who think that only after religion disappears or is discredited will peace and justice have a chance to prevail. It's just part of the human condition that most people believe that if everyone would just think like I do, then the world will be okay. Now, here at All Souls, we stand in a tradition that says that it is not conformity or orthodoxy or some right belief that will bring the world to peace and justice, but it is only in finding understanding and unity among the immense diversity of life. So what does this have to do with John the Baptist? Maybe more importantly, what does this have to do with you? The Advent spirit is about bringing light into the darkness. It requires speaking truth to power. It's about facing fear and doing what's right even when it's costly. We see the Advent spirit every time a businessman refuses an unethical deal, even though it will make him rich. We see it when parents insist on limits in their children, even when it makes them irate and angry. We see it in teachers and social workers and others who work hard for the right reasons despite the salary. Well, I saw it recently in a spouse who chose not to run off with another person, but to recommit to her marriage and to her family. I see it in people who are willing to be part of a diverse congregation where they are not always made to feel comfortable, but who know the value of getting out of our comfort zones. Preparing the way is about doing what's right despite the cost and the risks and the hardships. It's about looking at what's wrong in the world and in ourselves and assuming that it's not someone else's problem. I was talking to someone recently who told me that he had gotten a almost $2,000 tax return this year. And so he was talking about how he was going to head to the mall and get onto Amazon, and it was going to be the best Christmas ever. And another person, interestingly enough, the same day I was talking to, and she and her husband were going home to look through the pile of requests that they'd received in the mail to decide which ones they were going to give to before the end of the year. Which one of these do you think is really preparing for Christmas? The one who is heading to the mall, or the one who is going over the list of charities to support? Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu wrote back in the 6th century before the Common Era, if there's to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. And if there's going to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. And if there's to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. And if there's to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. And if there's going to be peace in the home, there needs to be peace in the heart. It starts in the heart, which means it is our problem. Creating a world of understanding and acceptance, peace and justice for all involves transforming our own hearts first. This is the season when we prepare and are reminded that we are preparers. It is a time when we look forward to the future. In the gospel accounts, the angel Gabriel announces the conception of John the Baptist and then announces the conception of Jesus, who he likens to Emmanuel, which means God with us. Gabriel's first words to Mary are, "Fear not, don't be afraid." I want to share with you this poem by Marin Terabasi, which is a beautiful reminder that even though we have much to fear in these times, we cannot let ourselves be defined by our fears. She writes, "O Emmanuel, hailed by clueless Gabriel, who thinks that we can shake off being afraid, come to us in our fear. We fear the past and the future. We fear those who are unlike us in any way. And we fear family members who should not hurt us, but they do. We fear chemo and COPD, and any kind of mental illness diagnosis. We fear heroin. We fear small spaces and high ones, food and poverty and bullies, dirt and death and dangerous workplaces, joblessness, retirement, and being asked to play. We fear forgetting people, being forgotten, not being able to retrieve a name. We fear labor and delivery and the impossible responsibility of being a parent. We fear naming autism, claiming a gender identity, or a recovery, or a religious faith. We fear not speaking of falling in love, of being late, or enjoying solitude. We fear for our children and for our parents. We fear terrorism, injustice, war, and global warming. Guns in the hands of those who are unstable, and guns in the hands of police. And we correctly fear angels and preachers who invite us to choose to make a difference. Come to us in all our fears, Emmanuel, so that they do not define us. In this day and age, our fears are plenty, but so must be our hope. Even without the camel skins and the diet of locusts, may you and I help prepare the way. May we be wise enough to know that it is our problem, so that we can do our part to ensure that the best is yet to come. Hallelujah. May it be so.
We are your church, and we are proud to be your church, or at least a church that's having a positive impact on your life. I am personally blessed to be your minister, or at least a minister who you're allowing to speak into your life. I hope you'll support our ministry and share your love beyond belief by texting LOVE-BB to 41444, or go to our website. But you can just text LOVE-BB to 41444 and make your gift. It's wonderful. Thank you. Be blessed and be a blessing.